Thank you for dropping by. I'm Butch.
And I'm Katie.
We're soldiers, leaders, family members, and
Nerds.
We wanted to discuss with you applicable leadership tools you can take away in your ALICEPack.
This is Army Leaders Improving Through Collective Experiences, or ALICE. Disclaimer, this video is not officially affiliated or endorsed by the United States Army.
Nope, it isn't. Yeah, my background, so I've been in for over 15 years in the Army. I'm a force management officer currently, but my background includes a lot of field artillery and air defense artillery experience. My bachelor's degree is in religion from Furman University, and I have a master's degree in organizational leadership from Western Kentucky University. And my hobbies are writing. I've written, I think, 3 or 4 articles on From the Green Notebook. I've written a call handbook with a couple other people as well in the People First Task Force, and I volunteer a good bit as a baseball coach here in the Austin area at Westwood High School, and also with a youth organization called the Cedar Park Titans. So that's me in a nutshell.
My background includes 18 years in the Army so far, degrees in audio engineering, entertainment business, masters in social work, and I have an applied suicide intervention skills training master trainer certificate, as well as my Army Master Resiliency Trainer, MRT.
MRT, which I am one as well. So you got 2 MRTs here.
Boom.
With you. Yep.
This week's topic is I have the Tiger Team.
Tiger Teams.
A Tiger Team is a small, specialized, cross-functional team that aims to solve or investigate a single problem or critical issue. Just like Apollo 13.
Yeah, so it originated with what I didn't know, that the history behind Tiger Teams, it originated with Apollo 13, with all the problems that happened on that mission set, and they created all these Tiger Teams, these special teams that attack particular issues with that mission. And if you watch the movie, you think of seeing 20, 30 people in a room trying to figure out how to solve those nasty problems. So Tiger Teams, that's where it comes from, and I didn't know that as an interesting historical bit. But really what we wanted to talk about today was how the Army can use Tiger Teams, even at the company level. You see them a lot at the strategic level, like the People First Task Force, which we were both on. I would consider that a Tiger Team. That was 30 to 40 select individuals tackling the Fort Hood report. But we want to talk about it, what companies, battery level, even battalion level, smaller, lower level people can use Tiger Teams. Just a small group of people from different experiences, backgrounds, different branches within the Army can really tackle those tough problems like sharp suicide, or organization, more, tactical problems like maintenance programs. There's a lot of great examples. And there's some articles that I researched where the 17th Field Artillery Brigade used it for sharp. So they did a working group with 20, 30 lower enlisted soldiers and NCOs, and they got after that problem. And then there's another one at Fort Johnson where they used a Tiger Team to attack the barracks inspection, which barracks have been a routine problem across the Army. But what we want to share with you is just these good lessons learned on how a Tiger Team can function, and how you select those individuals and how you manage them as a leader, which I think is the most important thing, is giving those people room to operate their left and right limits and letting them solve the problem, just given their wealth of experiences. But yeah, I'll pass it over to you for any initial comments at the intro here.
I think maybe what's really important is that we talk about why does it work? Why does it work when we have different ages, different expertises, and why that might not be a bunch of sharp experts, but people from different areas and different specialities coming together still can somehow solve the problem. Mm-hmm. Why does that work?
Our experience on the People First Task Force, I thought, was a great way to kind of sum that up. Is I'm a force management artillery person, so I look at things differently than you do from your experiences as a NCO. I'm an officer, you're an NCO, so we think differently, and that's a good thing to have that diversity of thought. And I think the People First Task Forces, we had logistics people, sustainment people, we had combat arms people, infantry, field artillery, and we all served at various levels of command and leadership positions. So we had post-brigade commanders, we had people prior to going to brigade command, or I think our chief of staff, she's in brigade command now, Colonel McDonough. And so it just gives you all those multiple viewpoints. And I think that's how you solve a nasty problem, is you get all these different perspectives and viewpoints on a problem set. And I think another thing I remember on the task force we did so many whiteboard sessions. You can probably comment further on that. All these working groups, and it takes a long time. That's another thing we'll reiterate on follow-on breaks in this is you have to provide that Tiger Team with enough time to really determine the root cause of the problem. So I remember we were doing all those working groups and whiteboard sessions with the Sharp stuff, and we had all the experts on Sharp, and then we would counter whatever they were saying. It's like, okay, the data says this, and we had various discussions on how victims perceive the problem, and then we shifted it to like the leaders. Well, the leaders say A, B, and C, and how do we kind of meet in the middle with a solution that works for leadership, works for victims, works for the program managers, and something that we can all agree on. And it was difficult at first because everyone has different opinions, but we had to meet in the middle with all those whiteboard sessions. But I remember that because I think we did that, Katie, probably, what was it, like a month or two of just every day we're just in a room together kind of hashing it out. But yeah, I'll toss it over to you because it was
the opening
pretty
part.
interesting. Yeah, for the opening part.
Right. Yeah. So you bring up a good point, is that maybe people in different areas and coming out of where this problem exists, these are the ones that it's affecting. And maybe it's the leadership and they have this point of view, and Sharp is sexual harassment and assault response and prevention program for the United States Army. We're the only service that kind of combines harassment and assault in responses and prevention efforts, because it's like a continuum of harm. Most assault is somehow predicated or indicated by a harassment issue. So the Army took that leap to kind of combine those efforts, but still we were having a problem. And the ones who are in charge of solving it, we were still struggling for some reason, right? So why not get the people who it's actually affecting, the people who are there inside the problem, to kind of contribute and help? It's actually bringing in the real stakeholders, and then, like you said, have it somehow enmesh and end up together where we have a combined point of view instead of some ethereal top enterprise level just dictating policy. Just because I wrote it down doesn't mean it magically manifests into the world. Let's get the people who are actually doing the thing, doing the problem within it, who are intimately related to those components and how they roll out in reality, and actually see how that can be solved. For the whiteboard part, yes, it comes to a point where maybe not consensus is achieved, but you delve deeper and deeper, layer by layer, where you would not normally get to that amount of attention to detail to that specific problem. That's where I think it really gets powerful, because you can kind of put, okay, all these things have to go to the side for now. This is the focus. This is what we're going to solve. These are the components we have to solve it. Do we need more? Can we fabricate them? What else is wrong? Do we take away something? How does it look better?
Yeah, and another thing I thought was really powerful, getting on your point, Katie, was including people that actually physically touch the problem, or have that experience with the problem in a direct fashion. And I think we had a few victims that were special advisors to those whiteboard sessions, and they just shared their viewpoints of how it made them feel whenever those things happen, and what the chain of command did or did not do, and how it made them feel and how it impacted their case. That was extremely powerful for me to have that, because I didn't have much experience with Sharp issues, thankfully, in my command, and a lot of other members on the task force didn't either. So it opened our eyes somewhat whenever those victims shared their experiences, and it helped us hone in on what the actual problem set is. But yeah, that's probably one of the most important lessons of starting up a Tiger team, is make sure it's just not a bunch of mid-level or top-level managers on the Tiger team. Make sure it's people that actually, yes, you don't want it up in the clouds. You want people who actually are encountering that problem on a routine basis to be part of the Tiger team. And for us in the Army, that's having those junior service members who are directly impacted by the problems. And Sharp's a good example, just based on that article. The barracks inspections, that's another thing, is you don't want to have a Tiger team of captains, majors, sergeants first class who don't live in the barracks. You want to have specialists, you want to have private first class, lower enlisted soldiers on that Tiger team. So don't stovepipe yourself as a unit commander or leader, having those Tiger teams that are just all mid-level and top-level people. You're going to get a bad solution. So that's probably the best starting point for this conversation.
Yeah, you never want to exclude the actual stakeholders. So with that in consideration, why are they important for the Army right now?
So I would say they're even more important now than even in the past is because the Army's in a very resource constrained environment. Our budget is going to be flat for the foreseeable future. It's a knife fight on the Hill with other services, with funding, and the Army's kind of taking a back seat to the Air Force and Navy and other services. That's just the nature of the budget fight right now. So we have to do more with less, but we have to get really creative internally with the solutions for the problems that I think we can solve. And Tiger Teams help you do that. So you set aside these small groups of people to think about the problem, analyze the problem in a very, very deep, constructive way with using all their expertise and different backgrounds, like we said before. And that's how you tackle these complex problems. Maybe it's not maybe it's not a money solution, and we're not getting more money, I don't think, than what we're used to. So I think it's even more important now to use these resources, because we have the people. And just from my experience as a company commander, a battery commander, when I was in an air defense unit, I had 3 platoon leaders. 2 of them had master's degrees. One was from Peru. One was from Ireland. Grew up in Ireland. Immigrated here. They both immigrated here, and they had a very different perspective than normal Americans, and also they were very educated and mature. They were both in their mid 30s, and I had an NCO corps who was also extremely well educated. One was a IT expert. One was like a cyber expert. So we were trying to figure out better ways to manage our air defense unit. And they knew all these creative ways to get after it. So I think we have the people in the formations now to get after these problems. We don't need stuff from the top to come to trickle down and solve our problems. So I think that's why Tiger Teams are valuable now. And I know our doctrine, and we'll put out these sources in this podcast. It kind of describes Tiger Teams as a strategic, a high level thing. Usually use Tiger Teams historically, like the Apollo 13. It's kind of for a really big problem, but I think a company battery level command team can decide to set aside 10, 15 people to solve barracks problems, solve sharp problems maybe, and just find a solution that works for that small group. So that's why I think Tiger Teams are even more important now than in the past. Is the resources aren't going to increase, they're going to be flat. So we have to figure out creative ways to do that. And the way we do that is using the people we have now. We have outstanding people now that have the skills to get after these problems. So yeah, that's my opinion.
But when you give them a dedicated mission and a time and space to do the problem solving, that is also attacking the resource issue, because that gives them the space to innovate.
Right.
That gives them like the lead, like, hey, here you go, figure it out. And more likely people are going to rely on their ingenuity and what they already have available to make this happen. So again, that addresses our resource issues, and taking all of these different points of view, put it into the melting pot, and what do we get? We get really, again, like you said, creative solutions, but it's with what we already, well, more than likely with what we already have, or maybe some more limited additional resource or shifting of resource or whatever that might look like. But just the space there and the time, and the time is a resource to innovate.
Yeah, I think another important thing about Tiger Teams is people kind of hone in on, okay, Tiger Team generates a solution. That goes back to your previous point, is sometimes those whiteboard sessions just help improve your understanding of the problem. Maybe there isn't a solution, and you have to be comfortable with that. And I think there's a lot to be gained from that, because what we see now on social media is a yearning for junior service members to just be heard and be included in the problem solving process. And this does that. So even if there isn't a aha moment in that Tiger Team, they at least their voices are heard. They're part of the process. I think that gets you higher unit morale and better, I think, just better overall team building skills. That person feels like a valued member of the team, regardless of their rank, and you included them in the problem solving. Even if the problem isn't going to be solved, they felt part of the process, which is extremely motivational for me, I think, and probably for a young private first class or specialist. If they are entrusted with solving a battalion level or company battery level problem, I think that's just going to build that trust. I mean, that's another benefit. Sometimes the Tiger, and another thing is, the previous chief of staff, General McConville, had the saying of failing quickly. A Tiger Team helps you understand the problem, and even if that solution doesn't work, just keep failing, and we'll figure it out. Fail quickly and learn from it, and we just have that cycle of innovation, like you're talking about, Katie. But yeah, I just wanted to highlight those couple points there.
Yeah. So, like, speaking of innovation, we create essentially agents of innovation as we start to involve more people into such a process.
Yeah, and then on top of the innovation piece is, like you said, involving more people is, don't keep that Tiger team, that same group of individuals,
not
the same
for
20
each
people.
one.
Yeah, keep rotating people through, because you don't want to have the same 20 people thinking about whatever problem it is and just rotating them through. You want to get all of your company battery through those positions, because again, like I said
It's
before,
true.
it builds that trust and builds that motivation and makes sure all those voices are heard. So don't keep those same 20, 30 people tackling the same problem. I think that will generate some boredom, frustration, and also for the entire team, they're going to feel left out. Like, why can't I be on the Tiger team? Yeah, so I think that will generate some issues there. But yeah, getting after the innovation piece is just keep rotating people through, so you get those fresh perspectives on those problem sets. So a company commander or battalion commander can have that Tiger team and say, okay, Sergeant First Class so and so will be replaced by Staff Sergeant. Just have that revolving door of people. We're going to take a logistics person, replace them with a combat arms person. Just keep the diversity of thought going through the Tiger team. That helps the innovative piece. And then one of the last things that I hit on before was the unit commander's role. So a commander should remove as many obstacles as they can. The difficult thing with the Tiger team, I think we hit on, was the resources. It takes time, and you have to take those people out of the fight, so to speak. So if you're
a little bit, right?
Yeah, so I mean it's difficult. You may you have to accept some risk with your mission set. You may not be able to get to as many tasks with your day-to-day work as you usually do, but with a Tiger team, it helps you solve those even bigger problems, and I think it's going to generate more benefit. So a lot of unit commanders may be hesitant to do that, especially now with our excellence culture that we've hit on in numerous podcasts. Is there's always that culture to excel in all things, but if you just accept a little bit of risk on a couple tasks, spare these small group of people to form a Tiger team and tackle the big problems, eventually once you get those solutions, it's going to have like a flywheel concept, and you just keep building off that success. But I think that's the biggest thing with a Tiger team. Probably the biggest risk is a lot of unit commanders won't really remove those obstacles, the time and the other resources to form that team, and then let them focus on the problem and not those other day-to-day tasks, which I think sometimes we get a little too wrapped up in. But yeah.
So that would be difficult. You might have to set the stage if you are a leader and this is something you're like, yes, I want to seize this moment. I want to attack a problem with the Tiger team. You might have to sort of set the stage for your leadership to understand why maybe these things aren't going to be done, because this is the problem we're going to attack, and this is something I believe in. Mm-hmm. Are you going to back me up on this? As long as you have maybe your next hire or whoever might be feeding you or having some sort of expectations upon you as a leader, let them know, like, this is the priority right now. Is that going to be okay? Maybe have it in writing. Formalize it in some sort of formalize the Tiger team, in some sort of documentation. This is our document of intent. This is what we're going to do. This is who's going to do it. This is how long we'll try to go for.
Right, and just with you talking, it kind of sparked my thought of how we consider red cycle taskings. Whenever we cycle through the taskings, maybe there can be a red cycle rotation for a Tiger team. Maybe a Tiger team will come from a specific company or lower unit that you're in charge of, and then you can offset that loss of them going to a Tiger team with another left to right unit picks up those duties and helps them out while they're doing the Tiger team concepts. Right. That's something that kind of sparked my whenever you were just talking about it. I was like, hey, that seems like a creative thing. And then whenever that Tiger team comes back with solutions, you share it across the formation. Like, hey, since you helped me out, here's the solution we created. We're going to share and move forward. And I solved the barracks problem for Bravo Company, Charlie Company. Since you picked up my battalion staff duty or whatever, you picked up my maintenance tasks for those 2 weeks while I did the Tiger team stuff. Here, let me share with you our barracks SOP or checklist, whatever we came up with, and then it helps the organization as a whole. So I think that's pretty creative way to get after it. Is a lot of commanders are hesitant to give up people, but you can talk to your left and right, like you said, Katie. Have those discussions with your higher chain of command and get buy-in and support for those resources. That way you can tackle these big problems.
And your peers too. If they truly believe what you're doing, they're gonna try to help in any way they can, right? Mm-hmm. It's like, yes, we will sacrifice, and then they can communicate. Maybe it's a little bit of a messaging piece, and that's just to prime it up, and so they will believe in your Tiger team prior to establishment and execution, and because nobody wants unsolicited advice, right? So it's like, hey, we solved this problem, now take it. And they're gonna be like, no, we don't like that. Yeah. But if you've primed it and everyone sort of sees the progress that you're making and the dent you're making into that issue, particularly a shared problem, and how that can make life better for everyone, then
you get all that buy-in.
You'll get it.
Yeah, you get it. So, yep, that's it.
So there's actually a handbook that gives you a implementation tool, step-by-step guide with an action and the notes and the guidance on how to complete that action. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so it gives you a how-to guide of what a Tiger team should do, how it should be set up, and what steps they need to take. Just we don't have to go through. I think there's 12 or 14 steps here, but the most.
Put it up though.
Yeah, we can post it. We're gonna hang it on the podcast here as a link, and it's in a commander's handbook that the Army's provided. But what stood out to me that we've discussed in here before is having those right team members with the right expertise and the right self-motivation and correct backgrounds, just various backgrounds, so you get a big perspective, a wider perspective on the problem set. And another thing I kind of honed in on was empowering them to go directly to the commander, so it removes all those stovepipe. We're a very hierarchical organization. We have various layers of bureaucracy, and a great thing with the People First Task Force is we were empowered to go directly to the Chief of Staff of the Army with solutions. We didn't have to go to several other authority figures. We went straight to the most senior officer in the Army. So I thought that was really, really awesome. And then with this Tiger team at the company command level, they answer directly to the company commander. If it's a battalion one, directly to the battalion commander. They brief them on their solutions. So you have to make sure they're empowered and they're not stovepiped from the rest of the from the decision-making authority. So they go directly to them, and they get that leader's direct feedback throughout. And that's probably the last thing I'll hit on here is the handbook step-by-step list says to do routine checkpoints with those leaders that empower them. You have to come back every few days, and I think it says 72 hours here every 3 days with updates on where you're at, how we're looking, and what solutions have you come up with. So that's very important. Just keeps that Tiger team honest, and it helps the leader provide guidance and give those left and right limits and steer them to the right solution. So I thought that was pretty eye-opening for me was that check on the system, so to speak. As Tiger team, don't just go off into the wild for weeks or months on end. You have to come back to don't ignore them. Come back to the leader, get refined guidance, pitch them your analysis, and see where you're at in the problem, and then what solutions you're kind of aiming towards. So that's very important. And with the People First Task Force, we had weekly touch points with those senior leaders in the Army to get refined guidance and help us develop those solutions. So I thought that was really, really important. And even at the company level, you can do that. But we'll hang this tool. It's a pretty simple tool, but it gives you step-by-step instructions of how to set up a Tiger team and what they need to do. But
and you set those expectations right at the forefront as well, so they know what are their obligations, that team, to you as the leader. And then you as the leader, now you have some ammo. Now you can continue to talk about it, keep that conversation. This is still a problem, don't forget, we're working on it, this is the progress we're making, these are the ideas we're already seeing. And then you have continued buy-in, continued reminders that this Tiger team is valuable in some way.
That they're getting stuff done.
Yeah.
Which is it's motivating.
Yes.
For the entire organization to hear that. But yeah.
And valuable to them. It reminds them that this is why I'm giving up a bit of resources, potentially temporarily, to solve a larger issue.
Yep. All good points.
All right. So you want to start a Tiger team, your Eye of the Tiger team. What are the pitfalls that leaders need to be aware of?
So probably the most important one we've hit on routinely throughout this episode is just resources. It takes those people out of the day-to-day task to focus on whatever problem the Tiger team's tackling. So if they're maintenance personnel, if they're whatever in a leadership position, if they're a platoon leader or squad leader, it's taking them away from those duties to solve those bigger problems, and that's a big risk that a lot of commanders probably aren't willing to take. But you have to understand in the big picture, whenever you solve those bigger problems that are hurting you as an organization, it's going to pay huge dividends if you talk to your left and right, your battle buddies, your peers, to try and free up those people to focus on those bigger problems. But that's probably the number one risk. And
we can avoid that by doing that cyclic rotation, and correct?
So yeah, you can rotate. Another risk so rotate people through. That's another thing is don't get stuck in using the same 20 people. Or they'll get worn out, and then or other people, like we said, other people will feel left out, which isn't a good thing from a leadership perspective either, and it hurts the buy-in. So continue to rotate people out. That's another risk is if you have a successful Tiger team as a leader, you view it through the lens of, okay, these people get me results every time, so I'm going to stick with that core group. that's a big risk, and you
that.
shouldn't do that. So keep rotating people through, get that diversity of thought, or you get into that solution bias, which you think, okay, well, since they solved this problem, it was Sharp or whatever barracks, maybe they'll solve this maintenance problem, and you may not get a good solution because those people's expertise, I guess, don't fit that problem set, and you didn't rotate people out to get a different perspective, a more applicable perspective.
And those perspectives keep us safe from maybe those biases or groupthink.
Yep.
So as long as you're doing the rotations, hopefully that would be a great way to avoid that in incremental intervals. And
then I think another risk that was brought up in this commander's handbook, and there's another article from the Green Notebook that brought up this risk, was the proposed solutions may not be what that leader wants to hear. So you have to have that humility to change. And sometimes you're stuck in doing some things a certain way. And I've been there as a company commander. It's hard to make those changes. But whenever a Tiger team of your empowered individuals come to you with a solution, you have to swallow your pride and really act on it. And I think you hit on this, Katie, was whenever you back brief the entire organization, hey, the Tiger team came back to me, there's these solutions, and you're acting on it. That is it's so motivational and inspiring whenever, okay, here's a group of, just picture yourself as a low-ranking member of that team, and you see your commander, okay, they're acting on something that we brought to them. That's so, it's fun to me to have that, and then you just
I did that.
On it. Yeah, it's like, hey, I helped do that, and it's like look at what we're doing, and as a commander, I think it's difficult to kind of put yourself in that situation. Is okay, well, 20, 30 people, and I've done this a certain way. It's always worked for me. But whenever you have that Tiger team, you just have to swallow your pride, I think. And I think there's usually a way you can implement those solutions, even if you just have to swallow your pride and get after it and do it.
Be prepared to do that at the beginning. That's like walking. It
may not be what you want to hear.
Yeah. Knowing that that's not, maybe the status quo, but remember that's the whole point that you put it together, is because whatever you had, it's not working.
Yeah.
Right? You wouldn't have this problem otherwise. So why not give it a shot? Give it a go. If that doesn't work either, then back to the drawing board. But you've learned something. Maybe this is not working. This is not working. Now what's the next step?
Yeah, I mean, you have to get used to failing. I know a lot of people aren't comfortable. A lot of leaders aren't comfortable failing, especially whenever you're in a command position. You don't want to fail because all eyes are on you. But whenever a Tiger team of entrusted, empowered individuals bring you solutions, like, just try it. That's my thing. Is just try it. If it doesn't work, you can come back weeks or months later and maybe set up a new Tiger team, different individuals. Okay, that didn't work, but we learned from it.
Yes.
And we're going to tidy it up and get it right next time. And sometimes that's just what you have to do as a leader, is you have to maybe take some hits personally that you think you lose face or lose whatever, and then it helps your team. Yeah, the Army will go rolling along. And then the last point is
don't pressure them.
Don't pressure them to solve the problem quickly. Even with those routine checkpoints, as a leader, we all want solutions. We all want it as quickly as possible. But I think what was very valuable for us on the People First Task Force is the Army Senior Leaders, Chief of Staff, the Vice Chief of Staff. They provided us time. It takes time to solve nasty problems. It takes a whole lot of time. You have to be very patient. Yeah. There's a lot of data out there, a lot of sources, a lot of things you just have to analyze. And I remember in my ILE class, my majors course at Fort Belvoir, one of our instructors would ask us 3 times, what's the problem? You would answer it, A, B, and C. What's the problem? And he would ask it a 3rd time, what's the real problem? You keep going through all the layers of the problem. Like, do you really understand the root cause of the problem? And that's what I remember in our whiteboard sessions. We were talking about, okay, sexual harassment. What's the root cause of this? We just kept digging deeper and deeper. All the PMs from Force Com, AMC, various other commands were just, this is what I'm seeing. This is the root cause. And then the psychologists would get involved. Here's like the behavioral root causes. And we just kept going further and further, trying to figure out what's the actual problem we're trying to solve. Is it just various factors you have to understand? And even with relatively simple issues, I would say, like maybe dining facility issues or barracks issues, there's a lot to uncover, and as a commander, don't get honed in on getting solutions quickly, because you're gonna miss something, I think, and that makes it worse, I would argue, even though there's learning points from it. But if you don't truly understand the problem, the solution's not going to work. So you have to provide that time.
The pressure also, I think, pigeonholes them, makes them just, okay, well then this is the answer, instead of what is probably the right approach is some sort of multi-pronged approach where you're coming at it from different angles and different a suite of solutions might actually be the actual solution. So don't put that pressure and then make them or force them to come up with, oh, okay, well, just a check the box answer, because then you've kind of undermined the whole point.
Right. And there's also another thing. Yeah, just you talking about it, Katie. Another thing that kind of caught my attention on that checklist was do a Tiger Team AAR, do an assessment. Be patient with those solutions and actually assess them to see if they're solving the problem. After it's on a plant the flag moment, the Tiger Team came back. Hey, we answered it. Okay, it feels good for a week. What about 3 months, 6 months, 12 months? Did it actually solve the problem? That's another thing that I would argue some commanders, we just want the easy button, or we want the plant the flag moment. Look at me, Captain Posadas, we solved this barracks problem, and then 3 to 6 months later it just falls apart for the next commander that came in behind him. We solved it for a little bit, but long term it wasn't a good solution. So I think that's another critical thing that probably, I guess, tidies up this entire episode pretty well is there has to be a continuous assessment. A
built-in assessment. A good solution has the assessment built into how you execute the solution. So that's going to feed back in some sort of loop. The best ones will be some sort of passive collection that you can observe or collect data in some sort of way to determine this is how I determine it. And don't jump from solution to results in a non-logical way. Just because I put up a policy letter on a board doesn't mean that's why things have changed.
Right.
Make sure we're drawing the correct lines from action to reaction.
Yeah, and you can probably speak to this on
on
the data side. You're kind of a data scientist geeking out here, but usually it takes 6 to 12 months, 18 months. I mean, there's long time frames for that analysis, especially. So that's another thing to be patient with. But with the Army, we change out squad leaders routinely. We change out platoon leaders every 12 months. So, but there, like you said, Katie, there has to be a built-in, deliberate assessment piece. And then there's people in the formation that know how to do that. So it's not I have a religion degree and an organizational leadership degree. I don't know how to do the ORSA stuff, all the operations research and analysis piece. That's not my specialty. But we have people like you, Katie, right? Yeah. So we have people like you, and you have those kinds of people, those data scientists at division level. So talk to your chain of command. They can help you build those plans. It doesn't have to be.
They jump at the chance.
Yeah, they jump at it. They'd help you. Just put another thing in their ALICEPack to help you out. But it's very, very important. So that's it on that. But to sum up, the Tiger Team concept was we have a lot of difficult problems in the Army, and I think a Tiger Team is a great asset because our resources, like I said, are not increasing. It's a pretty flat budget. We have to solve our own problems. I think we're definitely postured to solve our own problems because of the people we have in our formations.
Agreed.
And just
we have the best people.
Yeah, the best people. Let's provide the time and the other resources, free them up from those duties so they can solve these big problems that I think the Army faces on a routine basis, and it's unfortunate, but Tiger Team, it's a great idea. It's a kind of an old idea, again, from Apollo 13 way back in the 60s and 70s, and it's been around for a good bit. There's a lot of good sources that we'll post on this, all the links to on the podcast, but I would recommend every company commander or battalion commander think about doing a Tiger Team to solve these problems in your formation. You don't have to wait on hire. You don't have to wait on hire to do this. You can do this at your level, and that's what we're all about at Alice, is just giving you the tools that are out there. Just do the research. Read these articles. A lot of good stuff has already been out there, and we just want you to take that away, put in your ALICEPack. And I think Tiger Team is just another good tool to put in your backpack that can solve problems. But yeah,
boom.
Boom.